As I look to the horizon, not a cloud, but then stormy weather's go too cold. Seems like it crept up out of nowhere, all around you is not what to foretold. You never see it coming. You see that my mind is too fast for eyes. You're done, but the time it hit you, you're not surprised.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Musicality.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. This is DSP News. I find myself in a very interesting predicament today, being that I'm going to have to shed some light on a story that some of you may know or may not know. By this point, I would assume that everything has been straightened out, that everybody kind of understands what the real circumstances are, if you've heard the actual story. Now, recently, a very popular player in the FGC, a guy by the name of Cloud895, had made a comment on his live stream about DSP. We're actually going to go over that video in a minute, or I'm going to at least play it for you. It's only like 2.5 minutes long. And he made some assumptions. Now the thing is Cloud hasn't been around long enough to really know a lot about the lore. He just heard hearsay, and that's fine. And I feel like I'm going to let him slide on that because he just doesn't know. He certainly wasn't around at that time. You know what? I'm about to take you guys back on a field trip. I had to do research. This is what I'm doing for you guys now. I'm doing research. I'm supposed to be lazy about this shit. We're gonna go back to 2007. This is how far I'm gonna take you guys back with this. So I don't have a lot of. I'm personally not gonna come down on Cloud like that. He just didn't know, and it just happens. That's what the situation is. Wouldn't have taken long to actually look that up, but he's on a live stream. He saw somebody's name come up as his opponent on Dragon Ball FighterZ, and you all know how Phil feels about that. I'll have a report on that coming soon. And he just kind of got into himself. I get it, no problem. And it's easy for mistakes like that to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, this is something that I've been trying to say for a very long time about being infamous. This is something I've been trying to express to people for a very, 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 very long time. And Phil never really learned how to kind of cope with that, how to compensate with it in a lot of ways. That's what makes this a problem. Now, for anybody who's asking, the music that I'll be playing in the background as I'm kind of going over my report, I'll have a link of it in the description, or I'll make a new playlist that you can actually go and check. And I might actually just start bouncing off that. But this is a bunch of new music that I had found, as well as a couple of guys here in the office, so I thought it was going to be appropriate. So anyway, so where do we start? So let's get to the actual allegations, so to speak. So Cloud is sitting there playing Dragon Ball FighterZ. Somebody with a DSP name pops up, and he basically goes into a small story about how Phil got banned off Evo, or got banned from Evo for pulling a knife out on multiple people and so on and so forth. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk for a minute. There are, and like I said, he doesn't know, so it is what it is. He don't know. It is what it is. But do you really see Phil pulling a knife out on anybody? Seriously? Let's be honest with each other. Do you really see Phil having enough heart to do that? I don't. Actually, according to Evo lore, when he got a little bit of pressure put on him, a little bit of a squeeze. They didn't even get orange juice out of him yet. They just put the squeeze on him a little bit. They just put him with a little bit of pressure. He sat there and curled up out in a ball and ran himself into a corner. According to some very prominent, fighting game players at the time, he was known to lock himself in his room and cry. These are all alleged, ladies and gentlemen, all alleged. But it still helps kind of paint the picture of how this particular situation wouldn't have worked out. It just seems awkward. It seems odd. It seems a bit out of place that DSP would have enough heart to do that. 2, who is DSP really going to run up on with the shank? Let's think about this for a minute. Let's really, really think about this. Who's DSP really going to run up on a knife with? Over what? You know what I mean? And he did it multiple times? Come on, let's be honest. If DSP did it the first time, people would probably have been shocked. If he had done it the second time, oh, please believe they would have gone and made some hot change out of that. Easily. Easily. If he thought he was worth $1, someone's about to break him into change. It'd taken no time flat. So, these are just some of the things. But keep in mind, like I said, Cloud don't know. Let's just be honest. No disrespect to Cloud, but you don't know. You know what I mean? You don't know. You're only hearing hearsay, and that's pretty much what DSP is. And then his fan base are just gonna be like, who the fuck is DSP? Why do I even care? So, oh, DSP, he pulled out a knife. And then they just went ahead and let that shit go. So there you go on that. But this, ladies and gentlemen, is what I've talked about being infamous. Okay? When you have people, now let's actually go over that for just a second. Because when I see these people in videos, under videos I should say, saying, oh, you know what I'm saying, you guys are just mad because he's a famous fighting game player, so on and so forth. He's not famous. He's not famous. He had a run at a time in a game that had a little bit of notoriety, but that was definitely internationally more respected than anything else. He had himself a decent run. If you take a look at his Evo win, no one can take that. Well, it's not even a win. It was a 4th place finish. No one can take that away from him, and no one should. But at the same time, the fighting game community has already relegated that particular game, that particular port, I should say, of that game to be nothing more than just a sideshow attraction. It was a side tournament. Basically like Marvel Infinite right now. That's essentially what that got relegated to. That's what that was. And there was so many problems with it that no one took the game seriously, and everybody thought they were just going to steamroll through it. The reason why Phil steamrolled through them, I'm going to call it how I call it, the reason why Phil beat them is because they didn't take the game seriously, and he did. He actually sat down, he put the time in, and he actually learned how to play it. That's really what it came down to. That was his saving grace. End of story. That's the only thing that gave Phil the real advantage. And whatnot. The pros didn't know that there was going to be these changes in there that was going to throw the whole balance off. It is what it is. So, now, like I said, you can give Phil his 4th place finish. It is his 4th place finish. It is his. But to go around and say that, you're the #1 ranked super turbo player that year, I mean, people didn't like how I think, honestly, a lot of people just didn't like how he said it and how he was trying to project and what he was trying to project, whereas now no one cares. The only person that cares is Phil. And let's be honest, even Phil barely cares anymore. He just holds on to it because he's all it has. He holds on to it now because there's nobody to fight him over it. No one cares. So it is what it is. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get into the video from... who's providing this for us? Oh, DipShitPhil 2. Shouts out to DipShitPhil. We're going to go over there. We're going to listen to the video. And then we're going to do some story time. Now, story time, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be interesting. Because the actual person that Cloud had this all misconstrued, who had misappropriated, I actually have his story. I have pretty much all of it, for the most part. In the video, as you're listening to this video, or if you're actually watching it, I'm actually going to have screenshots from Twitter, which actually kind of started all this up a little bit, essentially. And then I'm going to actually take you to a place that, if you were in the FGC, or if you're just a fan of the FGC, you've gone to, you're familiar to. That was SureYouCan.com or SRK, and yeah, I've had some really great experiences on that forum. I learned a lot. I'm going to take you there to an actual forum where all this happened. It's pretty much, so you're gonna pretty much get to read the story from start to finish. There's some comedic shit there, a little bit. There's some dead weight there a little bit, but essentially you have all of it. Shouts out to Kenny for taking the painstaking, for going through the painstaking process of actually grabbing that. So look out for that. That should be good. You're actually gonna find out some very interesting stuff. And the person in question was a guy named Duck Jr., aka Dark Prince, aka the Prince of Darkness. And I'll give you a little bit of his background, and we're gonna get a little bit into Marvel 2 lore and how it was back in those days. So this should be an interesting video for you guys. Ladies and gentlemen, this is DSP News, always late, never breaking, unreliable coverage that you can't count on. A GTG network and productions. One more thing, I really appreciate that over the last couple of days, that you guys were okay with the kind of, I guess, character profiles, which I did one for what, Rich of Review Tech USA, one for Mundane Matt, and another one for Wings of Redemption. I appreciate it, guys, because I've had a lot going on as it pertains to work and stuff like that. So, and I had done those videos a while ago, and we never got a chance to shoot them out. But at the same time, I was getting the chance to kind of look over some of your guys' feedback, and it's very interesting, some of the stuff that you guys said. Actually, what a lot of you guys said, to be honest with you. So, I very much appreciate that. If there's any other videos that come up of another YouTuber who says something a little bit in-depth, not just shitting on Phil, just shit on him, but actually give some real insight to him, send it to me. Either leave it into the comment section, you can message me, you can leave it in the discussions tab. I'd very much appreciate it. Also, the Ladies of GTG calendar, if you guys have any recommendations and whatnot, go ahead and also leave that in the community tab. It'd be a much easier place for us to go ahead and take a look, see what names you guys pop up, and go from there. Also, there will be some slight changes to the Lazy GTG. We kind of have like a whole new crop of beautiful women coming in. So some of them will be rotated out, some of them will be the same. You guys will see as the video goes on. I'll have a few new ones in this one, so hope you guys like that. So yeah, let's see if we can go ahead and get into the actual video in question that caused all of this. And I gotta be honest with you, I feel it's kind of awkward that I'm actually defending Phil on something. Now granted, like I said, this isn't a very big story. On Twitter, it pretty much got squashed out pretty quickly, if you guys saw, or if you've actually seen DipShitPhil's video, which his link will be in my description. It got squashed out pretty quick, but I'm actually going to give you some lore. So I hope you guys actually appreciate that. Well, if you guys enjoy it, really. Whether you appreciate it or not, it's not really a big deal. But I hope you guys enjoy it. So let's go ahead and get into that. Yeah.
Super Saiyan Dark Side Phil?
What?
This guy's name is Super Saiyan DSP. It's gotta be a fucking play on Dark Side Phil's name. There's no fucking way.
Okay, guys, we're here with DipShitPhil. Cloud talks about DSP.
There's no fucking way. For those of you that don't know who DSP is, let me give you a little FTC lore. And
Oh god.
And I wasn't around for the era, but I've heard a lot of stories about him. And he's still around today, but he's blacklisted from all tournaments for I think it was Evil. He whipped out a knife on somebody. Multiple occasions, I believe. And he's just like a shithead overall. Yeah, Choice Boy, he did it twice.
Wait, he pulled out a knife on somebody?
Yeah, that's one of the draw launches. That's one of the reasons he's banned.
Critical for Days cheered and said, Phil, you're going to laugh your ass off after seeing this. Apparently someone accusing you from the fighting game community, and I quote, DSP was blacklisted because he whipped out a knife on someone at Evo, on multiple occasions, and he's a shithead overall. That's why he's banned. Wow. Well, let's see. Let's attack this from all directions. All right? Number one, I'm not banned from Evo. I'm not banned from Evo. In fact, I'm not banned from any tournament. At least if I am, I've never been notified that I was. So, to my knowledge, I've not banned from anything. That's number one, okay? Number two, no, I've never pulled a knife on anyone. In fact, I've never owned a concealed weapon like that I would take out with me into the real world and, whip out on someone. That's completely false. No, I didn't do it on multiple occasions. This guy is a complete idiot. Whoever this is a complete fucking moron and is 100% wrong. Now, he could either be completely misinformed and he's just stupid, state stuff like that publicly, or maybe he's just trying to slander me. I don't know. Either way, he's a complete idiot. So, that's why you got to be careful. The kind of morons who you watch. I don't know what else to say. Yeah, you definitely want to go to this moron stream where he's going to say stupid shit about stuff like that. He has no idea what he's talking about. Talking out of his colon directly, his rectum face. Saying stupid shit on a stream. Wow, that's who I want to hang out with. Someone who just makes shit up and has no idea what the fuck they're talking about. What a dumb fuck.
And there you go. So as you heard there first, like I said, Cloud wasn't around during that era, and things get sketchy as time goes on. So when a lot of those there's a lot of stories, by the way. We've done some research here in the newsroom over the past at least couple days since this was brought to my attention, and we went back and looked, and actually talked to some of the old G's who used to compete locally and who used to travel for tournaments and whatnot. I actually had to ask them questions and stuff like that to kind of get an idea of all this. And at least one of the old G's that I was talking to immediately was like, yeah, that's Dark Prince. Like DSP was always known. He really just shit talked at the he shit talked on the forum, and you might catch him mouthing off at somebody who he thought he could handle at a tournament, but then that usually ended up, someone ended up bailing his ass out of that one. So it is what it is. But as Cloud said, he admitted that he doesn't, he wasn't part of that era and whatnot. He just didn't know. It is what it is. I'm not going to sit here and fucking bash the kid. He didn't know. You know what I mean? It is what it is. And that's the problem, yet again, with being infamous. When you're infamous, they'll tie you to all kinds of silly shit. They'll tie you to all kinds of dumb shit. It is what it was. DP, that's in Dark Prince. And then, DSP, it was very easy to get that misconstrued. You know what I mean? No one knows who DSP is like that anymore. You know what I mean? You hear the name, and I doubt Cloud even knows what he looks like. I doubt that many of them even know what he looks like in the FGC. You know what I'm saying? The FGC has its own trolls and whatnot. But the era was very, very different back in the day. So this is where story time kind of comes into play now, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get into, for any of you guys who were into Marvel vs. Capcom 2, whether you played it, whether you just enjoyed watching it, whatever the case may be, that's what we're going to talk about now. So let's go ahead and get into the curious story of DSP with a knife. Well, first thing, as I had said before, DSP didn't have a knife. Now, with that being said, let's actually get into the situation. The person in question is actually, as I said earlier, the guy by the name of Duck Jr., aka Dark Prince, aka the Prince of Darkness. Now, he's actually a rather interesting fellow. At least he was, I should say. Apparently, this dude could have been considered your first kind of internet thug / I'm about that life type shit. Now, first, with that being said, let's talk about Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And that's a very, very old game, man. If you have it, hold on to it. It's worth something, especially if you have it on Dreamcast. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, if I had to describe it, and if I can put a video at the end of this one, just to give you just a glimpse of the type of hype that was behind it, I would have to equate it to, like, it was a cross between battle rap and one mixtape. And then you threw a bunch of crazy-ass Marvel characters in there. The game is only limited by your creativity. It's only really limited by your imagination for the most part. So much so, in fact, that Iron Man, for example, who's in the game, he has an infinite, right? And his infinite's actually pretty easy. Essentially, it took me a while to get it, but it's a pretty easy infinite, and there's different variations of it. Now, one of Marvel vs. Capcom lores is the fact that the infinite was actually discovered by someone having a dream about it. They had a dream about Iron Man doing a sequence of events, and the person at the time didn't actually have the game. So he wakes up in the morning, calls his friend, and he's like, "Hey, I need you to fire up your game console and try this for me." I think it was on Dreamcast. "I need you to fire this up for me. I need you to see if it works," and it did. That's so one of the infinites in the game was discovered through a dream, allegedly. It's so crazy. The actual atmosphere was crazy. Like, it was gritty. It was just a lot of yelling. It was a lot of screaming. It was a lot of hype. You know what I mean? I'm talking about shit talking to the max. You can't get that now. If you guys watch Evo and stuff like that, nah, you can't get that now. Because they're trying to take the FGC has been trying to go like professional esports for a very long time, and it's not working for various reasons, to be honest with you, because as long as the FGC has been around and the type of phases and different personalities and everything you have there, they should be, I mean, CSGO, no. Overwatch, no. But they should be somewhere in between 3 and 5 in the tiers. You know what I mean? Well, let me think about that, because you got StarCraft, you've got, wow, you got a lot of games, actually. It should be somewhere in the top 10 at least. You know what I mean? And I don't really, there's a couple of reasons why it's not there. There's a bunch of theories. We'll get into that maybe in another day if you guys really want to hear my thoughts on that one. And what holds the FGC back for some reason. It's kind of strange. You know, I don't know. Like, a lot of people feel, I feel, honestly, they should try to take more of a UFC type route, because it is combat sports in a video game form. So they should try to go along that theme. I don't know. There's a bunch of different ways you could think about it. But it's neither here nor there. But, and let me make a small correction. I said it was like An One mixtape and, shit, what'd I say? I said it was like, yeah, I said it was like An One mixtape and, oh, and it was like battle rap. Also, throw in the WWF's Attitude Era in between. There was a bunch of different personalities who were just wilding out. There was a lot of people who, at the time, there wasn't a lot of information being, like, shared. So, for example, like Magneto, right? Like, Magneto's a staple of the game and whatnot. Or Cable, or Storm. I'll use those guys, for example. Each region played them differently. So, like, Philly, for example, always had their own way of playing Marvel. Like, there's a Pacific Philly style when you watch Philadelphia players play. Same thing with West Coast guys. They have a particular way of playing it. New York, you know what I'm saying, which was a haven for Marvel. Each borough played it a little bit different. It's kind of like, for example, if any of you guys live in New York or have ever been to New York, you got family. You can identify a Harlem cat. Like a dude or a chick from Harlem, you can identify them. You know if you've been around there and so on and so forth, you've been around. You know someone from Harlem. You know someone from Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? You know someone from Queens. You know what I'm saying? You can identify them. You know what I'm saying? There's just something about the way that they carry themselves, the way they move, that you know, oh, that's a Harlem cat. You know what I'm saying? That's a Brooklyn cat. I might want to watch You might want to watch out with them. Don't be wrong. I've met some really cool guys out of Brooklyn. I've met some real cool dudes out of Brooklyn. I've met some really cool guys out of Brooklyn, but you gotta be careful. When Brooklyn boys ain't nobody to play with. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, that person right there is from Harlem. You know what I'm saying? They move in a certain type of way. Well, they all play a certain type of way too. And Marvel back in the day, Marvel 2, every state and then the city within that state had a different way of playing these characters or playing the meta, essentially. Because at the time, because you're talking about, what, 2007, you know, so you're talking about early 2000s, you know, YouTube wasn't super serious yet. So if you wanted to see a Marvel tape, like of a tournament, it was all on videotape. And you had to wait until either A, the tape was made, copies of the tape was made and spread around, or when YouTube first kind of got started, you had to wait and see if it got up there. Now, there are a couple of websites that are dedicated to Marvel, like collecting up as much Marvel footage as possible to for, you know, people to actually see the tech. So there were a few sites at the time, but very few. There wasn't a lot, but there was a few. So essentially, everybody just developed their own style. Now, with that being said, then that's when you get your rivalries going. And boy, I'll tell you, like Virginia definitely was coming in heavy. Florida was coming in heavy. New York was definitely getting it, because that's Justin Wong. You had California with Duck Doe and whatnot. He was actually, I guess you could say, he was the mentor of Duck Jr. Hence the reason why he had the name Duck Jr. before they kind of that friendship or whatever that was broke up, which was a shame. Anyway, so that's a little bit of the lore, man. There was just a whole lot of hype. There was a whole lot of it was gritty back then. It was gritty. You know what I'm saying? And it was entertaining. Now let's get into Duck Doe for a minute. Duck Do is considered one of the 4 kings, one of the 4 emperors, one of the 4 gods of Marvel. Okay, if my research is correct, out of all the Marvel tournaments that they've had, and they've had a lot. Okay, I think they've had a lot of Marvel vs. Capcom 2 tournaments and whatnot, especially Evo tournaments. It wasn't called Evo at first though. Duck Do has been a staple of the community. He's won I think at least 2 tournaments and whatnot. But he's considered one of the 4 gods because if I remember correctly, like I said, I can be wrong. So, you know, I have no shame in that. The 4 kings are Duck Do, Justin Wong, IFC Yipes, and then Sanford Kelly. And each one of these men each one of these men kind of brings something different to the table, to say the very, very least. But I believe those are the 4 people who have actually won tournaments. Justin Wong, obviously, winning the most. He's won the most Marvel tournaments out of anybody. I think Duck Do has won 2 Evo tournaments. I think Justin's won quite a few. I think Yipes has won 1, and I think Sanford Kelly won the last one. Like I said, if I'm wrong, by all means, please leave it down in the description below, but I believe that's how that works. I don't have the actual timeline on who won what. I just believe that Duck Do won the first Marvel 2 tournament. At, like I said, it wasn't called Evo at the time. Was it called Battle at the Bay, maybe? Before it became Evo? I think so. I think that might have been what it was called. But he won the first one, and I think he may have won another one later on. And then Justin had a really long run. Then IFC Yipes ended up winning one, which he came in with a very, very aggressive type of style. If you ever get a chance to look up IFC Yipes, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, look up all 4 of these guys. Duck Do, Justin Wong, IFC Yipes, and Sanford Kelly. You should definitely check all these guys out, but Yipes comes at it from a different angle. Yipes is the first person I ever heard say that he looks at Marvel vs. Capcom 2 like Street Ball, which is absolutely entertaining and whatnot, and that's kind of the mindset he had going in there. There's an old interview with him that I was trying to look for, and I couldn't find it, where he actually kind of talks about it. This is when he was on the come up. It was, his insight to the game is actually pretty amazing. Now, okay, so now I've given you a little bit of lore, a little bit of how Marvel was. I'll try to get, like I said, a gameplay at the end of this. I think I have one, and maybe you guys can kind of check it out and see what you think. Let's get into the actual situation itself, though. The knife. The knife. All right, so Duck Jr., which is a protege of Duck Do's, who later broke off, named himself Dark Prince and or Prince of Darkness. He's he's an interesting character. I would have to say he was very in your face about it for the most part. Small guy, to my understanding. Couldn't find any pictures or anything of him, but a real small guy. Talked a lot, and just kind of flung it out. He had a crew and whatnot. I think his right-hand man was a guy by the name of Mike Chaos, swole dude, who put a lot of time in the gym, apparently. Couldn't find a picture of him either. But he ran around with a crew, and he basically, you know, you can catch his hands, I guess, basically at any time. But essentially, he was all about his Marvel 2. Now, not to say that Dark Prince couldn't actually, or Duck Jr., or the Prince of Darkness, however you want to name him, I'll just call him Dark Prince, couldn't back up his words for the most part. As it pertains to the game, he's talented. Or he was, I should say. He was very, very talented at the game. And this is where kind of money match history kind of comes into play. Evo money match history back in the day was something serious. Like, people used to throw thousands of dollars down on this shit. You know, there was, you know, we're talking about, you know, 5, 6, 7 stacks that could be thrown down on a single money match. You know, like a race to 10. You know what I'm saying? It was serious, and like people took this shit seriously, dude. And that's just what people were doing for, you know, just the regular match. The side bets were even crazier. There are stories of people betting money on Marvel 2 and just side bets and walking out, you know, them walking in there with like $50 and they're walking out of there with $7,000 or $8,000 in the span of a night. You know what I'm saying? Making shit happen, just betting on the right people. You know what I mean? They had people that went there strictly for side tournament money. I mean, for side bets. That's all they were doing. There was people there that were going there to rack up, to basically stack up bread, just off side bets. Never played the game, or they weren't there to play the game, I should say, outside of the tournament. They were just there to do side bets. You know what I mean? And these money matches, these money matches were real serious because there's a lot of bread on the line. But like I also said as earlier on about the regions, there was a lot of pride on the line too. You know what I mean? There was a lot going on. So you got to imagine as a player, and you know that everybody that's from your city essentially has $10, $15, $20,000 on you to win, and then you have all that side bet money too on guys who are just fans of yours or guys who know that you can win. That's a lot of pressure. You know what I mean? So you kind of have to treat it the way you treat it. It's a very interesting situation. So losing was not gangster at all. Anyway, essentially what the deal is with Dark Prince is he was easy to get pissed off. Now for a while he had kind of chilled out. You know what I mean? He'd picked some fights with some people. I don't know what the outcome is, so I'm not gonna speak on that. But he had ran up on some people. There are definitely some fights. There was definitely some altercations. I'll say alleged altercations. Then he chilled out for a while, and then he came back. He looked like he was gonna be cool for a little bit, and then next thing you know, shit got real. There are two particular situations of him pulling a knife out on somebody, or threatening to pull a knife out on somebody, as well as a situation where he actually pulled the ratchet out on somebody. He actually brought the Nina out and whatnot. Thank God he didn't make it sing, but it's alleged. But essentially, what ended up, he did get banned from EVO. He got banned from the EVO series in April of 2007. It says right here that, let's see, he was banned for threatening physical violence on another player. That the threat was on SRK, apparently. It was in another thread earlier that morning. And then the thread you're reading is basically the aftermath of that. And you're going to actually see Duck Doe's mentor come into that. He actually chimes in on the situation. So his name should be Duck Vader. So you'll see that, and you'll also hear a little bit about the conflicts they've had back and forth and some of the stuff that was done. But that's what happened. Basically, you know, he had threatened somebody with a knife on the forums. Allegedly, he had done it twice in real life, and he pulled a ratchet out on somebody allegedly at one time, and that's what ended up getting him banned. Actually, interestingly enough, when he got banned, there was a flood of people who didn't want to see him get banned. You know what I'm saying? Because I gotta be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, just from my research alone, it was the wild fucking West back in the day when it came to Marvel 2. Like, there was some scraps over some certain shit. Over money, over just matches in general, because people had a lot of pride when they went into it. I'm talking about when you could feel the atmosphere a lot of ways on how, you know, these Marvel matches were going, because there were a lot of grudges. There were a lot of rivalries. It was literally like the WWE back in the Attitude Era. Like, some dudes didn't take loss as well. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, damn near blood feuds happen. And we're talking about spanning over years, where these guys, if they went to a tournament, oh, you know, hey man, we're going to get this money match going. You know what I'm saying? You got to tell your guys in your crew that you need to chill. We're not trying to fight him. I want him in this game. You know what I'm saying? And thank God nothing, at least from what I found, nothing too serious happened. There are some alleged stories floating around in certain regions about shit got real, like real, like dudes may have gotten stomped out, allegedly. But I didn't tie no names to it because I couldn't verify none of it. And come on, ladies and gentlemen, this is 11 years ago. This is a long ass time ago. This is a lot of research, or a decent amount of research, I should say, for something that happened 11 years ago. You know, popped off by some guy on a stream who mistook some names. But that's what happened. So it had nothing to do with Phil. Phil claims that he was playing Marvel 2. I don't know if he was playing at some super high. He definitely wasn't playing at no super high level and whatnot, because I've seen old Evo tapes. I've never seen him in a Marvel 2, and if he did, he got swept early. So there you guys go on that. I'm gonna go ahead, at the end of this, I'm gonna go ahead and put a video in that I was able to find, and it'll just give you a feel of what Marvel 2 was like. And you know, you take that and compare that to what's going on now, and it's a different story. Back then, you could just kind of let it all happen, and it is what it was. So there you guys go. That's the real story, okay? It wasn't DSP. It wasn't DspGaming. It was a guy by the name of Dark Prince and whatnot. He was a money made a lot of money too. He was a money match hype machine back in the day, man. he was challenging everybody and whatnot. He was in some really big bets. You know, we're talking about $10,000, $15,000 money matches. You know what I mean? He was in some big matches back in those days and whatnot. And that's who it was. You know what I mean? Now, some people, like, as you're reading through what I have on screen, a lot of people say it was bravado. Allegedly, he's done some other shit. You know, you can read it. You make your own decision. I just wanted to report on it. I thought it was an interesting story. When I actually heard it, I immediately knew that I was like, wait a second, that's not who that was. That definitely wasn't DSP. But I did have a good idea of who it was. I just had to go back and verify. So here you guys go. Like I said, there's some other stuff that's kind of missing from the story, but I don't think that was crucial, so I left it out. And I couldn't really find a face to any of these guys, really. I guess I could have looked a little deeper, but it was 11 years ago, man. You know, you gotta kind of let shit go at this point. But it is what it is. So, yeah, there you go. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of music to play out, and then you actually get into the match itself, and you can kind of just... These are by two separate people, but it gives you an idea of the atmosphere that was going on in Marvel, and that'll be it. I'll be going back to my regular news day. There's a lot of stuff to report on. Phil, Rage quit Dragon Ball Fighter Z again. I don't think I even put out my first report when he did, so he done it again. So I'm gonna have to do that. So that'll be cool. That day you'll get 2 videos. What else? Oh, apparently the cat has gone missing. Shouts out, by the way, to the person who sent me some information and whatnot. I'm not gonna put it out just yet. Well, one of them I don't think I'm gonna put out at all unless Phil slips up. Because that's crucial about some of her background. And but I do want to throw something, guys, at you real fast. But yeah, the cat seems to be missing. We'll make a video on that and we'll find out. Let me give you guys my thoughts on this whole situation up to right now. But Cat, that's her name. So I want you guys to think about it. Think about every person that you've ever met that was named Cat. What did that nickname actually stand for? Think about it. Cat. Catherine. I mean, just think about it. Just think about it. I'm just saying. Like, it's very possible that could stand for something else. Obviously, it stands for something else. And I'm surprised people haven't actually caught it yet. But people will. I think if you go over to the what's it called? Kiwi Farms, there are dudes that are slowly but surely breaking that shit down. As well as the state that they think she's from, which apparently it's Michigan. So, there you go on that. So that thousands and thousands of miles thing didn't actually pan out, did it? So, interesting situation with that. She's been MIA. And then Phil recently was talking all this nonsense about how she has an internet presence. She first he lied and said she didn't have an internet presence. Now she does. But she's gonna just do it as an experiment. Excuse me. Now she's done with it. Like, he's making it sound like she gave up her whole life for him. But we'll save that for another video. It is what it is with that. But ladies and gentlemen, this was DSP News. Always late, never breaking, unreliable coverage that you can't count on. A GTG Network and Productions. I hope this was somewhat entertaining in the fact that you guys were able to get some background out of it. The actual story itself was much more interesting, and at least for the most part, a lot of it will be on screen, so you can kind of take it from it what you will. There is one more song I think I want to play, and then we're gonna wrap this up, and I'll get you into this match, and you guys can kind of just get an idea of what I was talking about. So here we go.
Bond, cable guy on the left, Eric Arroyo, Mr. Clip,
Mr. fucking Clip.
on the right. He's ready to smoke this nigga. Damn. Let's get it back.
Everybody back up just a little bit. Back up. Everybody back up just a little bit. Hold on, back up. Hey, yo, come on. Yo, yeah, where you at? Get in here, my nigga. Make a little room here.
Look at that. A triple team. Yo, he did a team super hellstorm. Look at that team super hellstorm. This nigga is garbage. Who the fuck does a triple team hellstorm? That nigga sucks. Cable cry. Write that shit on live. Cable cry. That nigga is not fixing no boxes. One man army. Get them bugs. Who the fuck raw tags? I do. Fuck him up. Nigga, fuck him up. Stop the snake. Oh, okay.
Oh, that's the raw tags.
Oh, who misses that? Who misses that? Eric, alright. Oh, damn, Eric. Yo, leave the kid alone, Eric. Leave the poor kid alone. Damn, so free. Damn, this shit is free, yo. That's match. I'll stop the tape. Fuck this nigga. Oh, he don't want it. You dumb fuck. It's not Eric's fault. It's not Eric's fault, you dumb fuck. I want you to cry. I want you to cry, motherfucker.
You can't whip my toe. Don't even wear that. You're not
Damn. Take that New York hat off. Take that. Yo, your man got a New York hat on. Hey, your man got a Yankees hat on. Damn. Hey, your man got a Yankees hat on. What the fuck? Yo, fuck my voice. Fuck y'all. Nigga got a New York hat on. What the fuck is that? Nigga from NorCal? Okay. Nigga's choking. He's choking. You want it with me? Doug, you know you don't want it with me, Doug. Don't you ask me. You don't ever want it with me, Doug. You good, my nigga. You know we good.
Hey, he good, we good. He's straight. My nigga, he hold weight. He hold weight. Walking in the car, that company gang is a earth that nigga. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth, guys. I'm getting the heat. God damn. I know he's not going to my car. Stupid nigga. Oh, You dumb fuck, Eric. Oh, bloody knuckles. Bloody knuckles. Ooh, that shit hurts. Damn, nigga, damn. Knuckles. Knuckles.
Bloody nachos? I don't want no bloody nachos.
Preppy got dope. This shit, my nigga. Shout out to Preppy, nigga. Oh no. Yo, nigga, suck me. Why your character's blue, my nigga? Yo, Eric, get this nigga. Ooh. Oh, damn. Ooh. What the fuck? What? Come on, Eric, yo. Yo, niggas mad young. Relax on him, Eric. Damn. Yo, Matt, for real, yo, stop playing. Now some real shit.
Stop it! Stop hurting yourself. You're thinking too much, little man.
Why the damn? Little man.
You're stupid.
Little man. What the fuck? Yo, hey, yo.
So Eric,
That's Eric going crack. That's Eric going crack.
Don't even disrespect Eric like that.
Yo, everybody, yo, you need to chill out.
That's EX Eric?
Yo, I asked for a fucking shower.
Shit on hard, son. Oh, damn.
Yo, Mike, calm down, son. He's going all over the place.
East Coast.
Wait, Mike, don't think that.
Hey, yo, one nigga.
We fighting here.
Let me go over here.
Hey, yo, where's Cali at? I don't see no Cali. Get North Cali. North Cali. Oh, shit, yo. What the fuck are you doing? Oh no!
no! Watch cable!
Go cable, yo! Hey, go cable, go cable! You dumb fuck! Jump into a black homo! Jump into a black homo, you dumb fuck! You dumb fuck! Stop jumping, you dumb fuck! Stop jumping! Stop fucking jumping, you dumb fuck! Jump into another one, please! Please! Oh, please! Please! Oh! No! Hey, jump into another one, you dumb fuck! Oh my God! Give me that, give me that.
Nah. Well, let's surrender now for half the money.
Nah, give me that. Fuck that shit! Hey, guy! Why the fuck are you for your band?
Oh, why? Hey, yo, why you so quiet?
I'm in your fucking ear now, motherfucker. Do
Why you so quiet?
something, motherfucker. I'm in your ear, motherfucker. Yeah, okay. Who fucked you?
Right? Doing next one?
Damn! No, fuck that, nigga.
Who like cable guy?
Why the crickets? Why the crickets?
Squad call for this nigga, damn.
Retire this guy, please.
Nigga, straighten that chin.
Scared as hell.
Oh, this nigga's burning. Yeah, I need to go to bed, yo. This shit's too much. Hey, let me get a sleep. Let me get a nap. I didn't know Storm was orange.
How you pick that color, right?
It's like Kool-Aid, man. Yo, y'all fucked up, yo. I think that's a minute, man. You fucked up, yo. That bitch is like orange minute, man.
How that little juice do not work?
It worked for Michael Jackson.
Damn, yo. Get on the store, nigga. My nigga, do you know who you playing?
What's the
My
name?
nigga, not your name. Still no lose. You dumb fuck. Why you call Storm? Why you call Storm? You might lose, nigga. You might lose. Hey, fanboy. Shut the fuck up, nigga. Hey, you careful looking nigga. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Pop off. You look for one button dashes. One button dashes. This nigga can't press 2 buttons. They got one button dashes. Shut the fuck up, nigga. You ain't talking, you ain't shit.
Did you really have one like that?
Yo, they got one button dash. That nigga allowed one button dash.
But that's still fucking awful.
And you still lost. We gotta sing happy birthday. He won the game.
Yo, now that he's 1-1, anybody like cable guy? That's what I thought. No, come on.
One more? Come on. How much? How much for one more game?
I know you're not getting loud, my nigga. I know you're not getting loud. I know you're fucking not getting loud.
Who won 20 on cable guy with Triforce? Who won 20 on cable guy?
Nobody won.
Nobody? Nobody won 20 on cable guy with Triforce?
20? One game? Come on. 21 games? Okay. I like Eric.
Fuck that shit. Talk that now, nigga.
Anybody like cable guy? Anybody like cable guy? Anybody? 50 cents.
Yo, you want to
50 cents.
How you feeling? Let's go, yo, please get loud with Eric. Please. Let me see that. I want you to get loud with Eric, please.
Let's see if we got something to say. Hold on. Any words? No, you're done. You can't understand.
Dumb fuck.
You dumb fuck.
Oh, these niggas are knuckleheads, son.
Knucklehead. What do I do? I'm playing Eric Arroyo. Dumbass. I'm gonna get two, right? This game mode. Game mode. Thank you. Oh, damn. Hey, son. There we go. He's leaning on the camera. Thank you. Oh my God, why are you dashing? Why are you dashing? What the fuck are you thinking? Wanna wait for 74? Oh my, I ain't long nigga cable guy can't shoot a nigga. Damn.
There's a movie.
Oh, okay. This shit, bro. This shit.
The mega theater.
No, catch the movie. Pick up the movie. Okay.
You'll get him.
Damn, my nigga, I'm East Coast is trying to coach you.
You'll get him, my nigga. You'll get him.
Damn, yo. Yo, come on, cable guy. No, you get it. No, you good. Yo, Eric, block the whole match. Eric.
Come on, little trooper. You can